Well, the world has still gone nutty, buddy, even downright cruddy, buddy. Wish I missed the past, buddy, but there's still Buddycast. No, don't be naughty, go meet a buddy here on Buddycast.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and host of Buddycast, Nick Sorensen.
Idio, buddios! It's time for everybody's favorite show, Buddycast. I'm your host, Nick Sorensen, and joining me today is another fellow Erie podcaster, my buddy Dill Spears from Idiotville. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for stopping on Buddycast.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure.
Awesome. So first I got to ask, how did you come up with the name Dill Spears?
It's kind of a convoluted story, but we needed stage names. And when I was in the military, we had a running joke that everybody had a secret name that was an adult movie star name. And my adult movie star name was Dill Spears. So I just kind of kept it, and it seemed to work out well. And with Brent Liberty using his, it fit.
Nice.
So, plus, I love pickles.
Nice. Who doesn't? You know?
Yeah, it's. I have to give somebody a little skepticism if they don't like pickles.
Mm-hmm. You know what? We know what we have to talk about now. It's the pickle beer segment again. We have to bring that up for someone who may or may not be watching this episode right now.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, we had, there's a brewery in Pittsburgh. I think it's East End Brewery. I might be wrong on the name. They did a collaboration with Primanti Brothers for a pickle. It was like a pickle sour, I think, or a pickle ale. And our girl Anna, who's on the show, was like, we have to try this beer. And it was the lowest rated beer we have ever had. Brent gave it a 0.
I was about to say, Brent probably gave it a negative.
I wouldn't let him. I think he wanted to. I gave it 0.25. It wound up being like a 0.5 average because our guest on the show gave it like a 1.5 because she's really nice. Mm. But it was so bad. We did. I'll tell you what, Nick, on a little inside baseball, we did one today. It was called Fruity Schloop, and it was this wonderful sour ale with hints of like chocolate and graham cracker and marshmallow in it, and it was not only one of the best sours I've ever had, it was one of the best beers I've ever had. It was great, and it really set the tone for me to have a great day because there was like when I opened it, they had gotten a little jostled, so the foam came up out of the can and it left like this brown sugar residue on the top of the can. But golly, was it good! I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Nice. Now, before we go into more about the beer segment, how did you find out, or how did you find the opportunity with Idiotville? How did you guys create Idiotville?
Well, Brent and I worked together as what we like to affectionately refer to as urban pirates back about, I guess it's about 9 years ago now. We were repo men and payment collectors for one of the major rent-to-own companies. And when you have to ride around in a truck with somebody for 10 hours a day, 4 to 5 days a week, either you're going to get along really well or you're going to hate each other by the end. Fortunately, Brent and I think about things the same way. And what wound up happening was we would just do this fun stuff. And like we had these games that we would play while we were driving. I was like, we should do a podcast. And it was one of those, we should do a podcast. We should do a podcast. And then one day I was on Amazon looking for something and they had podcast mics for sale. And I was like, I am absolutely going to buy these because they were like 50% off. So what we did was we bought 2 of those, and we had a setup in my basement for about a year, and then we came up with the name Idiotville based on the comment sections in a lot of the local news websites, where we wanted to get on and call those people out for their constantly negative attitudes about everything. But we realized that what was happening was we were calling out the same people all the time. So we're like, let's move into something different. So we kind of decided that the best way to do it was we want Erie to be better. We want good things to happen here, and we want people to know about the good things that are happening. So the name itself is kind of a misnomer. And if you're ever getting into podcasting, be really careful about what you name your show, because we're kind of stuck with it at this point, but we own it. We love it. And it gives people a chance to say, Idiotville, what's that? And then we can tell them, hey, this is our podcast that we do, and here's where you can find it. And we're having the best time. We recorded our 212th episode this morning.
Wow.
Yeah, a little over 4 years. We started in April of 2018, and we've been recording basically nonstop. We went remote during the lockdown for the pandemic, which was we were all in pretty bad mental places then, but we fought through it, and we were able to bring the show to everybody every week as often as we could. And I think we're stronger now than we ever were.
Nice. And where can people find Idiotville? Where is it located?
You can find us anywhere that you get your podcasts. You can get Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, basically anywhere. If it's a podcasting platform, we're there. And
nice.
we've launched a couple of other shows. The big one that we're doing right now is Brent, Ryan, and I are doing one called Idiotville Sports, where it's our take on the old school Erie sports talk radio scene, because it doesn't exist anymore. There's no local sports talk anymore. And we wanted to carry on that tradition of guys like Chico Borman and Red Hughes and Jim LaCorchik, where they talked about Erie stuff in sports. So we concentrate on, the local big league teams like the Steelers and the Guardians. It's going to take me a long time to do that.
It's going to take everyone a long time for that name.
Yeah. And so we actually just dropped our first episode of that, I would say an hour ago. We recorded it Wednesday, and we've got some great interviews. We have an interview about Major League Baseball. We have an interview about how the Buffalo Bills are going to be this year. And we're gonna stick to that, I think, and it's going to be just a rocking good time. Talking sports is what we do, so we're really enjoying it.
Solid. If you ever find a way to get remote people on there, some virtual people, I might have some good names for you.
We would love that. We would absolutely love that. Anything that you can do to help us out, we would love it.
I'll have to reach out to my buddy Vince Papale for you.
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. That would be great.
See, you already have listeners. Someone started listening to this before this episode even aired.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
That is awesome. Yeah, I was actually listening in because I always like to make sure that I sound good, and I never do. So,
so on top of podcasting, what do your co-hosts mean to you? How much do they mean to you personally? Having, you said, Brent, Anna, all them in the studio.
Well, I have to say that they are the best group of people that I've ever done any project with. I don't hesitate to say that Brent is one of the best friends that I've ever had. He's been with me through a lot. Anna fit right in with us. I think she might have had some skepticism at the start, but she fits right in, and she has strong opinions about a lot of things. And we love to have that female voice. Now, I don't want to say that she's a token female, because she's not. She has a strong voice, and she has a lot of a lot of solid opinions about things, and she contributes much more than I could ever say to how our show goes. And Ryan is he's one of the best guys I've ever met. Ted Brogan, as infrequently as he's on, is quite possibly the funniest human being I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. He has the wit to drop something funny in, no matter the situation, that will make you laugh. And of course, I can't forget the one and only Jake News, who is, as of right now, probably the busiest person I know. He's got his regular job. He's got a business that he's running. He's a councilman in Wesleyville. He's doing it all. And there were some guys that were part of the show originally. Steve Castle was on for about 2 years, and he decided to move on. And then Marty Balake moved down to South Carolina, and he's doing his own show down there with our friend Doug. They do one called Charleston in Charge, which that's my favorite name for a podcast ever, because it lives in Charleston, South Carolina. And they talk about traveling, and they talk about all things Charleston and being kind of an expatriate, because Doug is from Lawrence Park and now he lives in Orlando, and Marty he was a transplant from Athens, Ohio. He was in Erie for 10 years, and then he moved to South Carolina. And Marty is another one of those people. He's one of the best people I know. He was there for me a lot when my late wife was very sick. And he was here a lot, did a lot for me. Same with the rest of them. I wouldn't be in nearly the mental state that I'm in, the positive outlook that I have on life, if it hadn't been for that crew, because they kept me grounded and they kept me sane.
If it hadn't been for your buddies,
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So on top of your co-hosts, basically being your buddies, how much does podcasting mean to you? Like, what has podcasting done for you personally?
It's allowed me to exercise parts of my brain that I didn't really know that I could, like the patience of audio editing, the constant ebb and flow of interviews and things like that. I'm much more gregarious now than I ever was before we started interviewing people. I've met so many awesome people and found out so many great things about our town. And I've been recognized. I got recognized by a lady at the post office one day because she heard my voice. Like, it's given me this sense of, this is a thing, and we're not just doing it for us. We're doing it so that other people can hear it and follow along, and we just have the best time doing it. And it's allowed me to have a sideline. Like, when my wife passed away, I really needed a distraction, and it's really, really helped. And it's not something that I would ever want to give up. And I've constantly got like, hey, this would be a great idea for a podcast. And I'm like, there's only 24 hours in a day, Dill. So, maybe just do the two that you're doing and hold off. But it makes me want to create. Like, that whole creator vibe has been wonderful for me.
Nice. And you're right, podcasting does help. I always say a bad day at podcasting is better than a good day at work.
Right.
And it's that distraction, like you mentioned, no matter what you're going through, just doing. That's why I love Buddycast so much. Meeting people, hearing their stories, hearing about how a simple podcast has changed your life. Just if you had told, I always tell people, you go back 2 years ago and say, this is going to be where this idea is leading you to, I would have shaken my head like, what are you talking about?
Right. Yeah. It's a whole new world. And a lot of times I have to explain to people what a podcast is, especially older people, not necessarily people, my age. And I think I'm quite a bit older than you are, but definitely not people your age. But I have to explain, like, my parents and, maybe some older people that I work with. This is how you get a podcast. This is how you listen to a podcast. This is not your dad's AM radio.
Hmm. And you're right. It's all, and what I love about podcasting is you can make it out of anything. You can be just three or four friends just chatting it up. You can be someone who wants to interview somebody, for what makes them unique. You could be someone who there's a podcast out there about video game music, for crying out loud.
Oh my gosh, yes, Alex does. He does such a great job with that.
Yes.
And I love like soundtracks and video game music and stuff like that. And he does such a great job of capturing it that
Mm-hmm.
he is such a big part of that community. After we did our interview with him, we got a couple of really nice emails about him where it was, I'm so happy you got to talk to him because he does so much for so many people in this community. And we were blown away by just that genre of entertainment that, maybe you or I don't follow along with. But Alex is also a great part of the Erie podcast scene. He's been doing it for a long, long time. And I'll throw somebody else's name out there. JJ Hodges, who does for Comic Junkies. I was on his show on Wednesday. We did a review of a Spider-Man story that I loved.
Ooh.
And he is without a doubt one of the most prolific podcasters in Erie. He does such a great job with that show. And it's he and I are kindred spirits when it comes to comic books. So we get along famously. When he was on our show, probably last fall, the rest of them were just like sitting back looking, and I just ramrodded the entire interview with him because I was so interested in how he feels about comics, and it was so much fun.
Nice. Now, you mentioned a bunch of Erie podcasters. Let me ask you about guests. Who are some notable guests that you've had on your show?
Oh my goodness. We've had Christy Ganibas on. She ran for Congress a couple of years ago. She is an entrepreneur, a business person, a college professor, a politician. She is one of the most fun guests we've had. We had Tyler Titus on when they were running for county executive, like right before the election. We've had politicians. We've had Ryan Bizzarro, Chris Campanelli. I can't talk today. I'm sorry. We had a couple of candidates for mayor. We've had a ton of business people on, local entrepreneurs. We had Brandon Starocki was on last week. He's a local creator who is doing his own independent comic, which was it was a lot of fun to talk to him about that. We've had I'm sorry, that comment is spectacular. We had Michael Balco.
Mm-hmm.
He's our local NFL insider. He's the one who broke the story nationally of Baker Mayfield going to the Carolina Panthers. It was on Pat McAfee's podcast.
Wow.
On his show. Yeah, they showed the tweet from him, and then it got picked up by the big guys like Schefter, but he had it first.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's saying something.
It really does. We've had Nick Sorensen on, and he was great on our show. We had so much fun with him. We've had.
I was going to ask about that at the end.
Yeah, we've had some. We had the folks from Mazza Vineyards on. We have had the guys from Blissful Meads. We've had Chris Kay, who runs a Tacolypse food truck.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love tacos, and he is. It's always wonderful when he comes on because he always brings us tacos, and we have a great time with him.
He was a sponsor of yours too, wasn't he?
He still is. Yeah, he sponsors our beer segment when we sample. We originally sampled a lot of local beers, but we drank most of them. So what we've decided to do is kind of expand into basically any craft beer we can get. We've done just all. I couldn't tell you all the guests we've had. We had Chuck Nelson was another recent one that he was great. He was really great. And then today we had Jake on, and he had if he wasn't the executive director at CAM, he would be a regular on our show because he fit right in, and he was absolutely fantastic as a guest.
Brilliant. Now, buddy, I got to play a quick ad from our sponsors, but we'll be right back, so don't go anywhere. This Buddycast is brought to you by Harbor Ridge Golf Course. If you're in the Erie area looking to play a quick 9, sharpen your skills on the putting green or driving range, or looking to play fling golf while having some quality time with buddies, head over to Harbor Ridge at 3730 Harbor Ridge Trail. When you're finished, head over to the Harborview Grill to enjoy a good meal, some live music, a gorgeous view of Lake Erie, and some more good times. Call them today at 814-898-4653. Tell my buddy Adam that Buddy sent you. And that was Harbor Ridge Golf Course. You golf, Deal?
I used to. We were actually supposed to play in the Bayfront Boys Scramble today, but that got overtaken by events. I haven't been on the golf course to play around in probably 5 years. I just don't get out on the course enough. And of course I was actually kind of grateful because my very excited canine companion Abraham decided that he was going to go charging after a very small bunny the other day, and I took a funny step and pulled my quadricep muscle.
Ooh.
So that I was definitely out of playing any golf this weekend. But I mean, I really want to get back on the course just because I need to get outside and get some exercise and drink beer in the sun instead of in a studio.
Yeah. I will say for our sponsors, they do have a pro that could help you if you're ever in need of lessons or any just looking just to tune up your game a little bit, you know?
Absolutely. And I've had a few lessons with pros at various courses, and they've never not helped me. It's always there's always something that you can do to tinker with your swing that'll make it better.
I have a funny story. So I had a golf pro on the show. His name is Dan Steen, and I took lessons from him as a kid. Literally, it was like I was making bets with my father and grandfather. I bet you I can hit that. I can hit the machine that's collecting all the balls out there. You know, whatever. Perfect. I'd get on the real golf course. You know, that would be with Steen there. I'd get on the real golf course. I'd be lucky to hit it from like your bookshelf over there to like your door or something like that, you know?
Yeah, that's me. I'll tattoo the ball on the driving range, and then I'll get on the course and I'll be going that way or that way, but never right down the middle.
But then one day he was on the course with me, and I was just having, in the words of Caddyshack, the greatest game of my life. Like, I didn't know what was going on. So basically, I'm never golfing without him next to me. Let's just put it that way.
Right. I don't blame you a bit. You have to have your good luck charm there, right?
Exactly. Now, this next question, keeping it audience appropriate, of course, keeping it buddy-like, what's probably some of the funniest things that have happened on Idiotville?
The truly funniest things that have happened on Idiotville are not appropriate for this particular venue.
That's why I said keep it buddy-like.
We've had so many hilarious moments, just funny things that have happened. I really couldn't nail down one that is something that I could talk about here. I would say, oh my gosh, it's got to be Jake New's rambling history of Erie that made me feel like we were in that scene in Billy Madison, where the guy's like, nowhere in your rambling response did you form anything close to a coherent thought. We are now all dumber for having heard it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. Yep. That's how we all felt when Jake was done with that. We're like, but we still crack up about that. It was so funny. Or honestly, the pickle beer segment.
Oh,
Brent,
that's my favorite because just Brent's reaction is just hysterical with that.
he was openly gagging on the mic. He was like, oh, and it was like to see him in person. He just looked like somebody had just kicked him right below the belt. Like he was just like, I can't believe we're drinking this. But he was, he was the comedy relief that day. That beer was awful, but he made it so much better because he was so funny.
I remember asking when I came on the show, I asked him about it. I'm like, so what's this pickle beer? And he's just like, awful, god awful. Don't try it. Don't recommend. Nothing. Just stay away from it. Don't even like. It was almost instant. Like I basically asked you like about this movie or whatever, and you knew like you would never see that movie again if someone paid you or something. You know?
No, I would not. If I were dying of thirst and somebody offered me that beer, I'd have to really think about it before I took it.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
Wow. So now you have the beer segment. You have guests. When you guys come up with content ideas, what's the process like?
Well, what you should put your brain in the mindset of is we had 4 guys on that show who were all grown men with ADHD. So it was like a pot of spaghetti at a boil. There was no real process for the longest time. And we've started to get much more in tune with what we need to do. We come up with a framework for questions. Like, what are we going to talk about? We get some background on our guest. We do an introduction, and then we just see where the conversation takes us. One thing that we do is we do record the beer segment live before the show and then insert it in the middle, because what that does for us is it actually gets us a little bit loosened up. You know, a good beer will never fail to relax me. And when I'm relaxed, I'm much more open. And when our guests are relaxed, they're usually a little bit more forthcoming with stories and stuff like that. And then, you know, we have had segments in that we had our Idiot of the Week. We had an ongoing segment where Brent and I affected that old-timey 1940s transatlantic accent, you know, Brent Liberty here, just like that. And we would do that, especially for some reason, when we were talking about the former president of Erie City Council, Sonia Arrington. It just, for whatever reason, we wanted to do it like breaking news from the 40s. So that's what we did. And now we've started doing the Idiotville questions at the end of every show, where I fire off. We put a minute on the clock, and I fire off 10 questions rapid fire just to get people's answers to them. Like first thing that pops into their head. It's so much fun.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, Buddycast exclusive. Do you have any upcoming guests you'd like to promote, or you can let us in on?
At this time, there's nobody that I can really talk about. But needless to say, we will be having some excellent guests on here starting about middle of August. I honestly don't have access to the calendar right now. My phone's in the other room, and that has our calendar on it, so I can't see who our guests are. And I let Brent take care of that because I'm more of the logistics end as far as producing, editing, stuff like that. But I know that we have a lot of guests coming up, but I apologize. I didn't have a list.
Let me ask you this. If you had the choice of the schedule, if it was your turn to pick who you want, who would be some people that you would really want on Idiotville?
One person I would really like to talk to is John Fetterman, who's running for Senate in Pennsylvania. I would love to talk to him just because he is such a neat guy. I would really, really like to talk to Dan Laughlin, who is our state senator, about a lot of things. We've just kind of missed connections with him, and I'd really like to have the opportunity to sit with him. As far as locally, somebody who's not a politician, there's just so many people. One person that I would love to sit down with for long interview with somebody who's been in Erie news for a long time, like somebody like I don't know, like Joey Stevens, who was on the air forever in Erie, or Lisa Zampa, who I think she's been on the air at Channel 12 as long as I have lived in Erie. I would love to sit down and talk to her about it. There's, just so many people, but those are the ones that really stick out for me, especially Senator Laughlin and the Lieutenant Governor. I would love to have the opportunity to sit with them.
Brilliant. You should ask some of my people from Channel 24.
Yeah, I have a funny story about that I'll tell you off the air.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah, it's there's a potential conflict of interest, so that's why we're not having a lot of newscasters on.
Yeah, let's not get me fired now.
Right.
So, anyways, what about celebrity guests? Say there was a genie here and granting you any celebrity that you wanted on your show, who would you pick?
Oh gosh, I would love to talk to Pat McAfee, who does the Pat McAfee show. I think he would be great. I would adore the opportunity to sit with somebody who's built something like he has from the ground up and just pick his brain. I think he would be a great interview. Another one that I would love to talk to would be President Obama. If you could put President Obama on a Zoom with me for 15 minutes, I probably wouldn't know what to say, but I would love to be able to talk to him.
I have a story about him. So, you've heard the backstory of Buddycast, how it's named after my grandfather and all that, because he always called me Buddy. My grandfather got to speak to President Obama one-on-one.
Oh, wow.
When he came to Erie back in 2008, my grandfather was one of his greatest campaign, workers. Like, he was their top caller, the person that's always calling you, that 90% of the time you don't answer because this is a political thing that you're just going to get into this with someone.
Oh, yeah.
He was the one, but he wouldn't talk to you like, here's the facts and figures of why you should vote for. He would talk to you like, here's what I'm looking for when I look for a president. Here's what I look for and this is why I know this guy fits the bill. This isn't just your average politician. This is the real deal. And people loved that. So he had the best record, of all their callers. And they picked about, I think, like 5 to 10 supporters, 5 to 10 people from the campaign. It was like, okay, you people are the lucky few who are going to meet back then Senator Obama. But you, Bob, are the only one who gets to speak, because we want you to tell him your story.
Oh my gosh, that is so great. Wow. I wouldn't know what to say if I got to sit with him, but I would absolutely love to.
Here's the first thing he said. Senator Obama, it is an honor and a privilege to be talking to you today. So then after the whole, after his whole campaign, after his whole speech, he he goes down, shakes everyone's hand. I'll never forget this moment. For some reason, I turned around for like 5 seconds because I thought I heard something, and I felt someone go, and I looked over, and he went, "Come here, guys," calling to Senator Casey, and said, "I want you to meet my biggest supporter." I froze. I shook his hand and everything, and he moved on. He shook my grandfather's hand, pulled my grandfather in, and said in his ear, "Between you and me, the pleasure was all mine."
See, that's a guy who knows how to let people know that they're appreciated.
Yes. And my grandfather never forgot that story. He got mail from President Obama when he was elected, got mail from the White House, Christmas cards and everything.
Wow.
And was just so thankful.
Oh, that is amazing.
Mm-hmm. And I asked my grandfather about that because I did a report on the president about maybe in 2014 or 2013, years later. And I asked him what his experience was like, and he told me that experience as if it just happened yesterday.
It's something you'll never forget.
Never
ever forget.
I was stunned when I felt this hand on my shoulder. I was just frozen. So you're right. If I could have President Obama, not to talk politics, not because I try to do my best to sway away from politics on this show,
Absolutely.
but just to talk to him about that, just to talk to him about what it means to be a buddy or something, it would be, as my grandfather said, an honor and a pleasure. So
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
So, now I got to ask, you mentioned all the platforms you're on. Where else can our buddies learn about Idiotville?
Well, we've got a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Idiotville. You can follow me on Twitter. It's at Idiotville_Dill. We also have an Idiotville Productions website, which is in basically a constant state of flux, but it's IdiotvilleProductions.com. We have a Patreon. We're on Instagram. Just look for Idiotville Podcast. We're literally everywhere.
Nice. Now, buddy, I've got 2 questions that I always ask my buddies that come on the show. First off, you're not a guest, you're a buddy. The first one is brought to us by our buddy Jonas Kane at #Positivity. He wants to know, in your own words, what does it mean to be someone's buddy?
What it means to be someone's buddy to me is you're there for them through thick and thin. You support them because they're your buddy, not just because what they're doing is right or wrong, but you're there to support your friends, to pick them up if they fall. You're there to boost them up when they succeed. And to me, that's the most important part of being a buddy. When one of my friends says, I'm having a bad day with this or whatever, my first question is always, is there anything I can do for you? That's
everybody.
And I've even tried to move away from that as I've gotten older to not, is there anything that I can do for you? What do you need me to do? Is there what can I do to help you?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes just offering to help people when they're having a bad day is enough to make them feel a little bit better. And to me, that's the essence of what it means to be a buddy.
Brilliant. And now, buddy, it's time for what we call the ultimate Buddycast buddy question. You ready for this one?
Yeah. Let me get stretched here. All right.
For anyone out there who wants to follow their dream and create a podcast like you've created, what's your advice to them?
Do it. Find somebody who knows how to do it. Go to YouTube and how do I start podcasting? Find the best equipment that you can afford. Don't overspend at the beginning, because if you don't like it, like say you try this and you don't like it, suddenly you've got $600 worth of equipment. We started our podcast for $75 in my basement 4 years ago. Just find a place where you can put a microphone and plug in a computer and start recording and talk about something that you want to talk about, because I guarantee you there's other people out there that really want to listen to it. Always. The amount of things that you can find a podcast about, I cannot fathom that there's something that there's not a podcast about.
Like we said, it's a great show, but there's a show about video game music, for crying out loud. So you're right.
Yes. The number of pro wrestling podcasts that are out there is astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
Comic books, and those are just a couple of my interests. I mean, true crime podcasts. I mean, I don't know how anybody listens to the same one. There's so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do it. If you need help, you can reach out to us. We're happy to help people, talk them through. What do you need to do to get started? What do you need to buy to get started on a podcast? I actually have an Amazon list of what you need to get started for a podcast, as long as you own a computer. Mm-hmm. You can do it from a phone if you want to. That's fine, or an iPad or whatever. But there's a lot of things that you can do to just give it a shot. Find out what you want to talk about. Reach out to us at idiotville.podcast@gmail.com. Shoot us an email. shoot us a message on our Facebook page. We are always answering that because there's 7 or 8 people that have access to it. And if there's a question, and they'll come to me and say, hey, Dill, this person needs some advice about editing, or this person needs some advice about getting their show started. Do you want to talk to them? Yes, absolutely. I do. I love to talk this stuff with people, and I love to show them how to do it.
Brilliant. Well, buddy, thank you so much for being a buddy here on Buddycast. Thanks for the advice. Thanks for telling us what it means to be someone's buddy in one of the truest forms I've ever heard. Thank you for talking Idiotville. And thank you again for being a buddy here on Buddycast.
It was absolutely my pleasure, buddy. And Nick, it's we have to have you back on our show soon. So
yes,
I'd
love to.
So happy to have been here.
And you're welcome on Buddycast anytime. We'll have to do an Idiotville panel.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. That would be so much fun.
Yes. For my buddies out there, this is my buddy Dill Spears. Please check out Idiotville. It's Buddycast approved. And hey, Dill, before we end this episode, I have one favor to ask you.
Absolutely.
Whatever you do today, tomorrow, next week, next month, even next year, please go be someone's buddy.
I will do that. Thank you.
Alrighty. We'll catch you all next time here on everybody's favorite show, Buddycast.
Well, the days are going fast, buddy, we've got to make them last, buddy, before they've all gone past, buddy, tune in to Buddycast. But don't feel none, go make it, buddy, here on Buddycast.